Well, dude, round number 2. This time it's just you.
It's good to be back.
I know. This is your first time at this studio.
Yeah.
You haven't been here yet.
It looks awesome.
I know. It looks pretty dope. What do you think about that big old pig behind my shoulder over there?
Man.
Look, you know,
He's nice and polished up. He's very shiny.
he is. Well, if you got any close from the lights on him, he got any closer, you'd see all the dust. But I caught that thing on. Do you know where the Bonity is?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm surprised you know where the Bonity is.
Man, I'll fish a mud hole every now and then.
Well, that I definitely know you know where the Bonity is by calling it a mud hole for sure. So the mud hole of the Bonity, my grandparents live out there, and precisely actually at the Goat Walk. And so you may not know where that is.
No,
but
I have no idea.
Yeah, it's this boy, he's from Kansas, but anyhow, the Goat Walk, and date is August 7th, 2005. So I was 11 or 12 years old. Yeah, a little short,
Nolan.
fat, chubby, little nerdy little boy. And we were out there fishing, and John Tilbury, I was fishing with, I don't even remember what, it's a Boo Garcia, like one of the big orange, round.
Yeah.
You know, like the old school, like
The
Ambassador. Yes, yep. And so I had that orange Ambassador, and I had one of those the skirt and stuff was pretty small from what I remember, and I still have it, but it had the big triple bladed buzz bait. And do you remember those?
blade?
You remember those?
3 blade?
3 blades. You remember that?
Yeah.
That's
the only bass that has ever been caught on a 3-bladed buzzbait.
and if so, that's okay, because that son of a gun is 6 pounds, and I think it's 7 ounces, but the taxidermist messed it up. He put 6.6. Sorry, son of a gun.
You'd be all right.
Yeah, be all right. So, but yeah, I caught that forever ago on a triple bladed buzz bait. But yeah, thank you for coming on. So I appreciate it. You had a hard day of work today, but introduce yourself to everyone.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's maybe a few listeners that haven't seen you on here before.
Hopefully so. What's going on, guys? My name is Connor Nimrod. I'm the owner and head installation technician at Tournament Technologies, located in West Monroe, Louisiana.
Yep.
We specialize in all marine accessories, sales, service, and support is our big thing. Like I said, all marine accessories, live scope for sure, graphs, lights, batteries, trolling motors, power poles, anything you can dream up, we can do.
Is there anything in the fishing electronics that you just don't do? You're like, I'm not doing that?
No, not really.
You do pretty much all of it?
Yeah.
Nice. Well, every time I come in, I'm like, hey, like I called you this morning. I'm like, hey, you busy? And you're like,
yep.
Shut up, hurry up, ask your question. I've got to go. I'm slammed. And so, and even you weren't really late here. You were like 2 minutes behind, but you weren't.
Yeah,
really
we were
late.
only. I think we had originally shot for 5:30, and we were only 10 minutes off schedule.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad at all. But no. So I actually have that Garmin screen right there on the right.
Yep.
That you've already helped me with the installation of all that. That's the 126, has the cradle, just pops in and out. And then, but that Humminbird, I actually got that from Michael Little. He's upgrading to the new, what's the new Humminbird?
The new Explorer
Yep.
units.
So he's upgrading to that. And so he had practically brand spanking new. I think he had it on his boat for like 5 minutes. He's like, well, my boat cover doesn't fit if I have both, like the duals. So does he have a Garmin on the front? Was he trying to run both?
As long as his setup is the same, and like you said, I know he's going to be switching and stuff like that, but so he's got 2 Garmins up front, both 1222 units. He's running 2 live scopes, one in forward, one in perspective, and he's got a Helix 12 up front for mapping, basically. I mean, it'll do other stuff with the trolling motor, but he basically just uses it for mapping, and he's had 2 Helixes at the console as well, but he's gone down to just 1 at the console now to simplify.
I think he may even have a Garmin there, and that was one of the Helixes that was there. And so anyhow, but I got it. I haven't made it. I'm waiting on somebody to get a graph. Somebody makes custom graph mounts. Do you know who that might be?
I do. I do know who that might be. We got some color match stuff coming down the pipe for your boat. Well, lots of other customers' boats too, but yours is going to be a little bit of a different color scheme that we haven't done yet. So excited about that. Yeah,
I wanted something that like it has your logo, which is right there on your cup. But I wanted your logo, but I didn't want black. I wanted to be able to see it and show it off some, and so. As nice as they are, it'd be good to show off. So, but yeah, we just want to talk just fishing today and really kind of wherever this takes us. But again, thank you for coming on. You've been making a pretty good little trail when it comes to some of these local tournaments. That's one of the first things I had to get into. Like I said a while ago, one of the guys said, he's like, "You're doing the podcast with Connor Nimrod." He's turning into a local legend, and this is like a grown man saying that.
Look, I've been called a lot, but I think that's the first time I've ever been called a local legend. So that's nice. I appreciate that.
You're just gonna take it. But yeah, talk about some of the tournaments, and I know you're not gonna brag on yourself, and you probably don't want to talk about it. But I mean, you've caught some really, really, really big fish, and it's not like just one body of water. Like I know you fish Caney a lot, but you've won some big tournaments on other bodies of water as well. So what's some of the big fish you've caught lately?
Yeah, so the media season started out a little bit different this year, and that's between media and Louisiana Team Trail. Those are probably the two biggest trails that I fish right now. The media season started out in November, I believe, of last year, and usually it starts, January of the consecutive year. So the media season usually runs January through October September, October for the championships. But this year it started in November of the previous year and runs through the spring. And just kind of started off the year hot with a couple second place finishes, carried it through to the spring. We've won a couple tournaments. We won one of the first Louisiana Team Trail on Claiborne, my partner JK and I, which y'all saw him heard him in the first episode of this. And then Jacob and I recently won the tournament or the media teams on Caney, with 30 pounds, 0.06.
That's wild.
Yeah, we've been fishing blessed this year. I can't take much credit for it. Got to give credit where credit's due, and all the glory goes to God. But we're still trying our best. So
yeah, well, you're doing pretty good. Or probably better than pretty good. You're doing better than most. But so like me, I would consider myself like a weekend warrior when it comes to like I fish more than just the weekends. But like today, I don't know. Are you hot? Is it a little stuff in here to you? Like it's probably because I'm sunburnt. But I took my shirt off for a little while, but.
I don't know, that little portable AC unit might not be keeping up over there.
Yeah, it may not be, and it's warming on. It's warming up. I'm gonna have to upgrade my AC units. I'm trying to be cheap and not run the one we're in. The building we're in is like a multi-story. Oh, yeah. I don't want to run the main thing, so I may have to get something else. But it's warming up this summer. But anyhow, I was out there at Darbone today, and I know I already told you, but we put 300,000, I held, but. Just videoing for the most part and pictures, but LDWF, Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries, they put 300,000, or we put 300,000, Floridas?
Yeah, so Florida, probably F1s,
F1s.
Which is going to be the first generation Florida strain. So there's no mixing of genetics or anything like that. You're getting a pure Florida strain bass, if that's what they put in there, if they put F1s in there.
I was just told Floridas. So
that's probably what it was then.
Yep. 300,000. Now, again, they were small. Like, they weren't very big, but we went all around. People have complained before about just going and just dumping them out at one place, like going to Jake's or going to wherever and just dumping them out, and people have made kind of a stink about that. Dude, we went all over that place, mostly on the south end of the lake, like around Stowe Creek. They'll do 300,000 now. They'll go back. I think they got 2 more stockings this year, just LDWF, not including the Lake Commission that's putting tigers out.
Yeah.
But they'll do 600,000 more this year, LDWF will. Okay. And we went focused mostly on like the Stowe Creek area. But dude, we went out there and I mean, with the live scope, we found just big flats of grass and just great habitat for them. And it took a lot longer, but I told them, I was like, guys, we need some good video of this. Like, we need to do it right. And so they were all for it, and we went out there and put them all out. But needless to say, I'm hot. I haven't cooled down from doing that today. It's been warm outside, but we put those out today. I don't even know where I was going with that. I got a hot flash and forgot, I guess. I don't know.
I'm just talking about fishing.
Yeah.
Getting excited about fishing and fishing on the weekends, weekdays, everything in between.
I was talking about, like, I consider myself skill level is probably less than a weekend warrior, although I fish more than just the weekends and I'm out there in it and stuff like that. Like, that's what I was saying. Like, I was scoping and doing all that stuff today and saw some fish. Still haven't seen any dang beds on Darbone.
Yeah, it's different out there.
It's not like Caney or any of the other places. Not even close. But what sets apart, my point of getting into bringing all that up is what sets somebody apart from like you or some of the other tournament anglers. Like, I get practice and all that. I get it, but we go and we watch a video, it feels like we fish the same areas and throw a lot of times the same baits, but don't catch the same fish. It's like when you're trying to get into that next level, what are some of the things that people like me are missing out on?
That's a pretty deep question.
For sure. It's not just a one answer.
It doesn't sound deep but like
Yeah.
For a lot of people, they'll understand this, that you can be better than the average angler per se for different reasons. Like it's not just a one or two, pronged approach that makes you better than everybody else. I think commitment or drive, whatever word you want to use, because some people just they'll fish and they'll fish tournaments too, but they're not necessarily pressed or hard pressed about where they finish, or if they do good, it's like, okay, yeah, but that might be their only good finish for 2, 3, 4, 5 years or whatever. But especially for the upper echelon anglers, I truly believe that there is an aspect of just instinct that some people just aren't born with or don't gather through the years of fishing for whatever reason that may be. Just the ability to even put in on the water, and if you were to blindfold somebody and they could just feel their smell and just kind of feel fishy, feel not fishy, and know when to move, when to not, and fly kind of the fly by the seat of your pants without having to just go out and practice for 4, 5, 6 days, whatever, to get on a good bite.
Yeah, well, like that sounds super weird. Like even for me, that sounds weird. But I instantly think about deer hunting. I'm no master deer hunter or duck hunter or turkey hunter, nothing like that. But I feel like I could go to just a brand new place I've never been before, and I ain't got a clue what state I'm in. At any point throughout the season, I can go and no, I'm roughly around this part of the year.
Yep.
Here's the conditions I have, and I would think I'd be able to get on some deer pretty quick, no matter where I'm at. And I'm not great, but I think I could do that. So I definitely cannot do that with fishing. Absolutely not. But
and time on the water gives you that, or it can give you that. I mean, you can't, obviously there's no substitute for instinct, but you can definitely gain more of it if you're not gifted with it, for sure.
Yeah. So what are bodies of water, or what types of fishing? What's some of the things that gets you excited right now? Like most places are going to be post spawn. Like here we are, we're coming up on May. A lot of the fish have spawned out. I'm sure there's still some up on beds, but
definitely shad spawn this time of year, I think, is on the top of everybody's bucket list. You're talking about top water blowups, moving fast, throwing moving baits. I mean, you're not having to sit there and drag a worm, drag a drop shot, try to fight for bites. Now, granted, it only goes on for about the first 30 minutes in the morning, so you're really feast or famine on it. But I mean, it can be lights out if you pull up on the right place, for sure.
How do you find shad spawns?
They definitely prefer hard cover, so rock, seawalls, even just sandbank, clay points, hard grass, hydrilla, eelgrass, that kind of thing. Even the gator grass, whatever you want to call it, that just grows on the bank in most places. And they'll pull out and they'll continue to spawn somewhat in the during the day and into the afternoon, but you kind of have to fight more for looking for the active balls of bait and stuff like that. So this time of year, like I said, feast or famine, because once that shad spawn's over with, you can be left scratching your head wondering where to go for sure the rest of the day.
So you just move on, just go fish the shad spawn pretty early. And this time of the year, a lot of the fish are, I hate to say staging up, but like they're getting ready to go out deeper. A lot of them. Are there like, I guess, staging points that those fish are going to for the most part? Is that like a general rule that you can live by, or?
Yeah, and you'll find them on those like in between places. And when I was calling in between places, let's say you got a brush pile that's not necessarily off the end of a point, but if it's in 6 foot of water, kind of halfway out on a point, those in between places where the fish are going between the main summertime stuff, your creek swings, your deep drop offs and stuff like that. And then in between that and where you'd find them spawning or chasing shad spawn deal on the bank, that kind of thing. But there's definitely fish out already. Like the first 2 waves of spawning fish have already pulled all the way out to that offshore stuff. They're definitely a little bit easier to catch because not a lot of people are looking for them yet, which is good. But give it another 2 or 3 weeks, and everybody's going to be out there trying to see if they can't find a good school of fish to go throw at.
So when they move off, they move off the spawn, they go out there to, like you're talking about, the brush pile in 6 foot, and they're getting ready to go out deep. Once they pull off and they do go out deeper, like we're going to use a big like something deep, like caney, for example, or darbone or something like that. Are those fish? Are they going and finding structure that they're staying through from that like post spawn when they pull out deep up through all the summer, most of the fall, winter, before they pull back up shallow?
It depends on what they're sitting on. And it also depends on how much the bait uses that area, because you'll find places where they move in and out of to feed. But if there's a place that the bait stays around all the time, they're not going to leave that. But let's say you've got a shell bed up on a 10-foot flat, but it's right on the edge of 20 to 25 on a creek channel. They're going to pull off of that shell because the bait fish aren't going to stay up there in the heat of the day. And they're just going to pull up there first thing, say 7 to 9 o'clock in the morning. And then they're going to pull up again from that 6 till dark, and they're going to feed in those windows up there on the high spot, but they'll pull out on the edge during the day to get in that cooler, more oxygenated water.
So they're doing that. They're moving that much in a day.
Yeah, but they don't want to move as much in the summertime. So that's why you find a lot of them on those harder edges, those harder breaks, because they want to just move as little as possible. So if they're just able to move up and down, or even kind of at an angle, as opposed to swimming all the way up on a flat and then all the way back out, they're not going to do that as often.
Yeah. Well, it's like a Darbon, the Majestic tournament. It's coming up June 5th, or are you fishing it?
I'm not, no.
You're going to be probably working on somebody's boats, or...
June 6th.
I think that's when it is June 6th. I don't want to give the wrong information in case any
Daniel,
of you
don't yell at us.
Yeah, don't yell it.
We're sorry.
Yes, yep, it is June 6th. Darbon Majestic, June 6th. So is it Friday and Saturday, or Saturday, Sunday?
That's a good question. I'd hate to lie to you.
Sorry, Daniel. We just talked about it today. I don't remember if I think it's Saturday. I know it is. It's absolutely not a Friday tournament. It's going to be a Saturday. Yeah. So that means it's going to be the 7th. So the Darbon Majestic's been going on for a coon's age plus some.
Yeah.
Have you fished it yet?
Mm-mm.
You need to sometime. It's fun. It's 24. It's actually like a 25-hour tournament.
Look, my beef with that tournament is not the tournament itself. It's the lake that it's on.
Yeah.
And I can already tear up enough stuff during the day out there that fishing for 24 hours and being out there at night sounds like no fun to me.
No, there are absolutely. It's gotten better, especially since this last drawdown. They did a lot of cleanup, like a lot. They've installed a lot of new lights, just making things. You can't help but run them safely now. Like you really can't, even at night. Like they have the solar lights on. If it's not every pole, I think it is every pole. Like for the channel, for the boat runs. But if it's not everyone, it's pretty dang close to it. But yes, a 20, essentially a full day tournament, 24, 25-hour tournament. Yep. And but they say that place that fishes really hard. But my point of even going into that is, it's summer, midsummer is hot. It's going to be really, really hot.
Yep.
It's like a Chick-fil-A drive-through, like a waiting line, on Thomas Road at like 11:45 or 12 o'clock, 12:15, something like prime time.
Yep.
There will be boats. There'll be someone on this channel swing. Like you can pull it up on Navionics, which I want to get into next, seeing how you go. I want to ask next before I forget, like how you go in and locate some of these fish, like using your electronics, mapping, different stuff like that, side scan, whatever. But there'll be this channel swing that someone that they don't even know what they're really looking at, they look like, okay, this looks like a dope spot.
Yeah.
And there will be somebody fishing it, and then there will be another boat just sit out there, may not even be fishing. They're just sitting there waiting for that person to catch a fish. And when they leave, he slips in to go fish it. That's pretty wild, but again, the answer's...
But you hit the nail on the head talking about how I find some of my fish and stuff like that is the fish... Yes, obviously use the obvious stuff that anybody can find, given any topographic map, any Navionics, Lake Master map, or whatever. And those are the places that they're probably going to get on first, just because they're easy to find. The fish are able to travel to them through major highways, ditches, drains, other smaller creeks and stuff like that. But the more active and more catchable fish are the ones that you find that are out of way, or on something sneaky that nobody else has found or doesn't know is there, or doesn't fish because they write it off and they say, oh, that little brush pile on side imaging, it's a quarter of the size of this other brush pile over here. Well, I can fish this brush pile for 45 minutes. That one takes 2 casts, and they just write it off because they're going to go fish the one that they see, oh, well, it's got 6 fish on side image, and I can see that in a pull up. But that other pile might just have 1 sitting on it. But that one might be an 8-pounder.
May
where these other ones over here are just 2-pounders because they don't care. They'll sit there and get caught. They don't know any better. Yeah. That 8-pounder's not going back over that brush pile and getting caught again.
So what's something sneaky? Like you're talking, I know you say about the small brush pile, but like how do you go about finding that sneaky stuff?
Just time spent behind the wheel
on that body of water.
Yeah, and it's miserable. I mean, nobody. Some people might. I don't like just driving around. I mean, when I'm on the water, I want to be fishing, but you have to just grind and look. I mean, because that's the only way that you're going to find everything that nobody else is finding. I mean, unless you just stumble across something random by happenstance. But the only way to guarantee that you can find that stuff is just time spent idling, looking at your graph, and marking everything. Anything that you see that looks interesting, it will probably have a fish on it at some point in time.
Hmm. So what technology are you using? What tournament technology are you using to find those sneaky spots, to find those fish?
Hands down, side imaging. You know, all the craze is about forward facing sonar, live scope, active target, Mega Live 2. And yes, it is critical to a lot of our success. Not going to sugarcoat it at all. I mean, that's just the truth. But if I could only have one piece of technology in my boat, let's say there was, that's all you had. You had a screen that did X.
One thing.
It's going to be side imaging.
Really?
Yep. Hands down. Like, without a doubt. I don't even have to think about that. You wouldn't be a doubt in my mind.
Yeah. So that's something that probably most people don't go and really use or utilize.
They do, but I think it's underutilized.
Yeah. So you have different megahertz on that.
Or
so,
different frequencies.
Or frequencies. Mm-hmm. Explain that to me really fast.
So we'll go with the more standard stuff, if you want to call it that, which is going to be your kind of 3 different frequency range. You're going to have the low end, which is usually going to be your 455 kilohertz spot, which now we've got everybody's running chirp, so it's somewhere in that 455 range. So basically what chirp is it's throwing out a bunch of frequencies and getting a bunch of frequencies back, as opposed to just pinging one frequency constantly. That's how you get that more detailed image.
And so you're talking about Humminbird exclusively.
No, so the 455 kilohertz is going to be, and like I said, this is chirp, so this is going to be available on Garmin, Humminbird, and Lowrance.
Okay.
Now, when you get into the 800 kilohertz spot, which again chirp, Garmin is going to have that capability on the GT 56 and 36 transducer, not the 34 the GT 34. Yes, 54 and 34. And then Lowrance is not going to have that capability on their new active imaging, what is it? That's bad that I don't even remember that transducer. That tells you what you need to know about that transducer. Active Imaging HD. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You're not going to have the 800 kilohertz option on that. You're just going to have the 455 and their 1075. And then Humminbird, the older units are going to be able to do that 800 kilohertz chirp, but the new Explorer units are not. They're only going to be the 455 and the higher frequency, which you can kind of change, but usually it's 1050 to 1175. So it's basically, as you go up in frequency, that you get more detail, but you lose range.
Okay.
And what it is it's a thinner beam, so you're picking up more minute stuff and you're picking it up in greater detail. But those thinner beams are not able to travel as far as your broader 455 kilohertz beams that can shoot. Some guys run their 455 side imaging on 150 foot and scan great, like huge distances.
You're talking about like 150 foot both sides.
Yeah, so 300 foot in total.
Wow.
But on, which most guys know this, on your Mega, on your 1075, 1100 kilohertz, that range, you're pretty much maxed out at about 100 foot. Maybe a little more if you got some hard bottom, really clear water where you're not having a lot of impedance on that beam. But especially for around here, you're usually anywhere between 80 and 100 foot.
And that's per side.
Yes.
Yeah. So what do you go and run yours on? Like, does it really depend on the body of water, or do you want to run that frequency as high as you can really get away with?
There are times where I will run 455. I usually don't ever run that 800 on side imaging, just because I don't like the image I get out of it. But 95% of the time, I'm running 1075. Now, for everybody who doesn't know, I run strictly Garmin products on my boat, so that's just what I personally choose to run. That's what I feel is best. I know there's a lot of other opinions that float around out there, but if you've never been in the boat with a Garmin set up right, you probably want to look at it. But if not, that's fine too. I mean, that's no skin off my back at all.
It's nasty looking, ain't it?
It's pretty good. It's pretty killer.
So what makes the Garmin, in your opinion, like what makes the Garmin? Because again, it is going to be opinionated.
100%.
Just like you pull up in a brand new Ford, somebody's going to be mad that you're not driving a new Chevrolet.
Yep.
So that kind of thing.
Yep.
But what, in your opinion, what makes that white screen right there better than the black screen when it comes to side imaging? Or are you talking about side imaging? You're talking about overall.
I'm talking about overall, but yes, in all of its assets that it has, I feel, except for maybe mapping, which I'll give them that. Lake Master is pretty good on a lot of places. But as far as that goes, that's where Humminbird really loses it for me. I mean, down imaging is incredibly much better on the Garmin than it is on the Humminbird. Side imaging is just as good, if not better, as long as you know how to set it up right. And then your 2D sonar, I mean, Garmin's had the best 2D sonar forever. They came from the saltwater market, so they had plenty of time to perfect that in much deeper water. So it's a lot easier to dial it in when you're only trying to shoot 30 foot than it is when you're trying to shoot 3,000 foot.
Yeah, something stupid. Dude, that's something I never use is 2D sonar. I hardly ever use downscan.
Yeah.
I use side imaging. Not now because I don't have anything in my console. It's sitting right there. But still, when I do, that's what I run is the side imaging.
Yep.
But that's it. But 2D sonar, why do you use 2D sonar over downscan?
For a couple reasons. The biggest thing, or the two biggest things that I use it for, is one, seeing fish that are really, really tight to the bottom. Because a lot of times on down imaging, they will almost appear like rock or hard bottom, shell, something like that. And it's kind of hard to pick them out. If you know what you're looking at, you can still kind of tell. But the 2D sonar, you'll see those little fingernail arches and you can go, okay, they're fish and not just something on the bottom. But two, you can also look at how that bottom return is on 2D sonar and tell how hard the bottom is, which is critical. Where on down imaging, like I said, you can still tell some, but you have to be more experienced looking at your down imaging to know, okay, that's clay, that's sand, that's rock, that's, because it's just going to be one color, just a different. Where on 2D sonar, you can get a double echo from really, really hard bottom, and you can go, all right, yeah, that's some shale rock, that's shell, really hard clay, something like that the fish are going to use to relate to more than just mud bottom.
Do fish in general, like bass, or I guess all fish, but probably not catfish, but largemouth bass is what we're really speaking, or smallmouth too, but bass, they prefer the hard bottom over.
Every fish really does. I mean, because what it boils down to is the bait fish prefer it. So in turn, everything that eats the bait fish prefer it as well. And you've got probably the best hard bottom is shell, hands down. Like that is because.
So what are you referring to as shell? Like
legitimate shell on the bottom. They're going to be mussels, clams, oysters, depending on where you're at. They're all going to be different things. The only problem with shell is that they're not expansive spots of it. Shell, like you might find some that are really good that are as big as this table, and that's how big the shell patch is. And when in person, you're like, okay, well, it looks pretty big, but when you're looking at a side imaging where you're scanning 100 foot out to both sides of the boat on a 12-inch screen, it's a lot harder to pick that shell out.
Yeah,
unless you're finding these huge shell beds, which are very, 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 very few and far between.
Yeah.
And everybody's seen them. Everybody knows them. Everybody's got a waypoint on them, so the fish don't use them as much, just like we talked about finding those smaller pieces of structure.
How small of a shell bed are you looking for? Like for you to be able to go fish something, like fish a shell bed, or small the size of this table, half the size of this table?
Depth will determine it a lot. Hey, because fish will use different pieces of cover with how comfortable they are in the water column. A little bit deeper, they'll use smaller shell beds. The shallow ones, they'll still get on the shallow ones, but usually you pull up, you might catch one, you might catch two, but then they're done because it's shallow. It's a small spot, and they go, okay, well, I just saw two of my buddies get ripped out of here. I'm gone.
Yeah.
Unless you have something to really hold them there and make them feed shad, brim, something like that they're actively feeding on. Then they'll stay around a little bit longer.
Yeah.
But those 10-ish usually are sweet spots for shell beds and stuff like that. And yeah, the bigger the better, unless they're really, really popular, well-known spots.
Yeah. What do you say to somebody listening right now and they're like ready to hit pause or go to something else because they're like, these guys are talking about thousands and thousands of dollars worth of gear that I have to be able to go find that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Or I don't find that interesting.
Yep.
I don't care about the gigahertz and megahertz and this hurts. I don't care about all that. Like I just want to go fishing.
Yep.
I don't care. I want to go throw a spinnerbait or something like that. My dad caught fish like that forever and big fish, and I am too now. I don't really care for that. Like this is not my podcast. So what are your thoughts on somebody fishing like that? I mean, clearly more power to them. Let them go do it. That's great. Like it's not knocking it. But if you had to say someone of trying to, I guess, get into it or that are completely turned off by it,
Yep.
what would you say to someone like that?
You can find all that same stuff, all the good stuff with Carolina rig, a football jig, and a really, really heavy swing head. As long as you're using definitely fluorocarbon over mono, but braid to a fluoro leader, it helps your sensitivity dramatically. And just you're not throwing the Carolina rig out there and pulling up on a point and going, okay, there the fish are, and you're throwing there again and again. You're covering water with the Carolina rig, but you're dragging that big 1 ounce, 1.5 ounce weight, looking for feedback on the bottom, going, okay, that's mushy, and then all of a sudden you pull up and you throw out there and you're it's dragging along the bottom, and you're like, all right, that's the juice. And a lot of times you drag through there and you're like, okay, there's some hard bottom, and then boop, oh, there's a bite, and there's your feedback that you're looking for. And you're doing the exact same thing everybody else is. You're just doing it, for lack of a better term, old school.
Yeah.
Pulling up on something, going, yeah, that looks right, and then throwing and finding the sweet spot while fishing at the same time, and not just idling around looking for feedback on your instrumentation. Yes.
All right. So flipping that, what do you say to somebody that they're listening to this and they're taking notes? Like, yes, this is what I'm looking for. Or every YouTube video of like that Jacob Wheeler or somebody else puts out that they know how to go and fish. That here's where you find May bass. Here's where you find post spawn fast. They all say the same thing.
Yeah.
They all say the same thing for the most part with the same baits. But what do you say to somebody that's got a $100,000 bass boat with more screens or I guess inches and screens than you have in your house? So they got all the money tied up into this, but still go out there and don't catch any fish.
Stay off my stuff. No. Do different stuff because everybody else is doing the same stuff. If you and your buddies are all going out and fishing the exact same stuff and nobody's got a bite, do something different. Don't force the issue. I mean, the fish, I've seen that, especially I think this year has been very eye-opening because I know a lot of good anglers that have really struggled this year, and we talk constantly. And it's like, dude, these fish are obviously using different areas. I mean, the places that like we talked about before, they'll still pull up on the old stuff, but the places they're using now are nowhere that they've used before. And it strictly comes down to, in my opinion, fishing pressure.
You think it? So what are your thoughts on getting all of your thoughts? What are your thoughts on like the beam or the ping or scaring fish? You think that's has any play with any of it?
To an extent.
But you think it's more so the boats, the traffic, the fishing, throwing all the different tackle, all that has more to do with it. Yep. When you go and you set a hook on them, you go fish a brush pile, you flip something down there to it. Okay. Actually, let me ask you because I want to try to learn something. You go and there's a brush pile. Okay.
He's leaning into the table.
June.
This ought to be good.
I told it's gonna be terrible. Everybody turn it off. It's June. You're fishing a body of water that may or may not be informable for a 24-hour tournament, and you go out there and there's a small. I'm going to edit this part out, so I'm the only one that gets this. Welcome to Monroe. That gets this.
Oh man!
Nobody else gets this information. You didn't hear that because by the time I edit it, you're not going to be able to hear that. But
they're pulling up to rob all my waypoints.
Yeah. Do you even have you even have a graph in there for them to steal?
No, thank God.
Yeah, well, I have these right here. I'll steal yours, or they'll steal mine. But that was a cop car, ambulance, or something like that is what we just heard. But you're fishing Darbone during the Majestic in the summer, and you go and you find this little bitty brush pile out in some X place, ain't got a clue where, okay? And you look down and you see just a huge return. And then right behind it is another huge return. Okay, you got that tail separation. Yep. You know you're about to see a big fish, or you know it's a big fish. What are you throwing down there to it? What's the first thing you're going to try?
And this is in the tournament, not in practice.
I'm really just, but yeah, you want to catch the fish.
Okay,
yeah. You want to catch the fish, and I was
really gonna say in practice, I'm not throwing.
Yeah, you're not throwing. But
I'm taking the trolling motor up and rolling. But in the tournament, it depends on where they are in the water column.
15 foot deep. Which that's
Yeah, but
still
I'm
probably
saying, so like, what my point is like, okay, if the brush pile's set up vertically, are the fish
gotcha.
at the top of the brush pile or on the bottom around the base?
I got you.
That determines a lot. Obviously, if they're on the bottom around the base, that's easy. Usually, I throw a big worm at them. Everybody does. If they won't react to that, or if I've caught some fish doing some other stuff in a different brush pile and they're not really reacting to the big worm, I'll probably plunk a drop shot at them just to see. Usually, those fish are less active that are down there on the bottom, so they're harder to get to bite. The ones that are sitting up in the top of the brush pile, that you pull up and it looks like the star on top of a Christmas tree sitting there, he's ready to eat. So big swim bait, jerk bait, a big spinner bait, crank bait if you can get it to come through there. Whatever. I don't think the active fish care as much. So whatever you're confident in is probably going to catch the fish as long as they're active.
I don't know if I've ever seen or heard anybody fishing a spinner bait on deeper structure like that to catch big fish.
Yeah, we might have to edit that out.
You came in, you're like, there's no secrets.
Yeah.
That's one.
Well, you didn't have to say it. I mean, I figured it would just like kind of glance over and you'd be like, not saying anything about it.
Hold it real quick. That will be a really good spot for me to cut. As soon as that came out of my mouth, I was like,
No, I don't care. We're
no.
rolling it.
No, we're cutting that.
Why?
You don't want to?
No, roll it. This is live.
This is not live. This is not live. Okay,
No,
we may or may not leave it in. I don't even know how to pick that back up. All right, real quick. We had a little bit of a technical error, but we are back.
Brought to you by the Spotted Dog.
Brought to you by the Spotted Dog. Shop online. Save big. We actually, look, that would be something. Thank you for coming back down, back, but thank you for coming down and tell us really quick what you did, because you had a pretty good number, a pretty good bit of
100%.
people that came down.
Yep.
And you sold some merchandise. You turned into a little salesman. So tell us what you did.
Yeah, so if y'all missed out, we were down, or I say myself was down, and I were down there for the Spotted Dog tax-free weekend. That was 2 weekends ago?
Yeah.
And we just kind of hung out, talked to customers, answered some questions, and there's going to be another tax-free weekend in
September. Yep. So the April tax-free weekend is online as well. So if you missed it, get ready. We got another one coming up in September, but the one in April, it's not pushed by the state or anything like that. That's just something that the guys at Spotted Dog just is like a give back thing. It's like, hey, it's tax season. It's all that.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about a little over 10% or right at 10%, whatever it is, which is crazy, but still, you're talking about like the first dude that came in and bought that bundle.
Yep.
They're already, I'm trying to remember the prices on it. So he bought the 10-inch, right?
Yep.
So is it the 102 is what?
106.
106. Yeah, 106. And so, yeah. So he got the 106 with a 34 transducer,
Yep.
the black box, like everything right there.
Yep.
And I think it's $23.99 or $22.99.
I think 24.
$24.99, whatever.
So basically, he saved $250.
Yeah. Well, on that particular one, it may be the bigger one, but one of them was like $1,000 or $1,100 off, like buying the bundle. That may be in the 12-inch unit. I don't remember.
Probably was.
One of them was big. Oh, you're talking about taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sorry. Yes, you were exactly.
I was going with it.
But aren't those units like $1,100? It may just be the 12-inch, but one of them was
buying it as a bundle for somebody who's looking to save a little bit of money. On top of that, the tax-free weekend, the bundle and the tax-free weekend,
which was how much
incredible.
in savings?
About $250.
$250. You were right.
And if you paid attention, or if you pay attention, coming in September, we'll have another tax-free weekend. Hopefully, I'll be down there again. I plan on it. So you come see myself, Nolan. I'm sure will be there. Michael, Slade, all them guys down there at Spotted Dog. They'll hook you up. They'll get you taken care of. They're great people to deal with. Great people.
Yeah, and that's what's awesome about this kind of stuff. Like one thing that I really like in the community that we have, and other people have it, is you sell products at Tournament Technologies.
Yep.
You were down there helping us sell products.
The same products.
The exact same products. You don't get that very many places. There's places around here that you don't get that kind of stuff with. But that good, just we're here to help you. You're here to help us. It's pretty uncommon. It's pretty abnormal relationship to have, and I know we're all very thankful for it.
Very much so. I mean, it's all reciprocated in the long run, which is very, very cool. Like you said, I mean, I touched on it just a second ago. Michael has been a customer of mine. Even I try to buy my stuff through him as well. He's an incredible person, a great guy, and just supporting that kind of business is what we need more of. And it kind of helps weed out the ones you don't want to go to.
Yeah.
So if I can send anybody his way, I mean, it's worthwhile for me to keep plugging them because, like I said, they're incredible guys to deal with. So they're awesome for sure.
So yeah, thank you again. It was awesome coming down. That's
Yep.
some fun stuff. But yeah, September is going to be the statewide tax-free weekend, and it'll be online as well. And so there will be some really cool stuff. We do have some super exciting stuff coming out on that one. And yeah, hopefully we'll be back down there. It'll be probably too hot to fish, probably too hot to dove hunt. That's open.
It'll be too hot for everything down here in September.
Yeah, we'll go down there. And I want to go into like the front to back to front, however you want to do it, of your boat. I want to see and like hear what you run, because you have some monstrosity of screens up there. They're freaking massive. They are. Like, I think a 12-inch screen is big until I look at your boat and I'm like, holy smokes. I do want to go into that. But one thing that we are talking about, it's not for sure, but it is pretty cool that I'd love, to get you to help out with some. Like anytime I can milk something from you, I'm going to.
100%.
Did you do 4-H or anything like that when you were younger?
I did not, no.
So I'm sure they had it outside of that, but I did 4-H, and you know what 4-H is.
Yeah.
Okay. I figured y'all probably had that in Kansas.
100%.
Just in case you hadn't picked up, he is not from Northeast Louisiana. You are now. You stuck. You stuck here now. But we at 4-H, we had fishing competitions, but it wasn't just going out fishing. It was just pitching, casting, that kind of stuff.
Like casting for kids, essentially.
Okay. So y'all are a little bit more wise with your naming up
that's
north.
just there was a big organization that we had back when I was coming up in the junior fishing and stuff, and they did casting
for kids,
like championships and stuff. Everybody competed, and then they did a big deal at the end where the top couple kids target cast against each other, and then the winner would get some rods and reels and kind of stuff. So it was cool.
So that is cool, and we're wanting to do something like that. We don't have any kind of dates. We just started talking about it within the last few days, but that is something I hope that we do. So hopefully I'm not lying to everyone and telling y'all that that's something we're probably going to do, and we don't. But I think it's something that we're going to try to do.
Talking about September on that tax-free weekend.
No, I think we may do it before. I'm going to try to push Michael and Richard to see, again, they're going to listen to this and be like, what in the world are you committing us to on top of all the other stuff that we have going on? But I would like to do it sometime in the summer. Kids are out for school. Yeah. Kind of bouncing back and forth, between people's vacations. One weekend or something like that, get people down and just their kids and just have some fun stuff like that. So hopefully we can get you back down there.
100%.
With all that being said, keep your eyes and ears open on that. But I want to hear front to back to front, wherever you want to start on your boat, on some of your electronics. So someone that they don't have anything set up and they're going to be calling you, driving from no telling where to bring their boat to you, and they're like, hey, I want the, not necessarily just the absolute best of the best, but I want some really good quality stuff, something I can trust. I'm going to spend the money on it. I want something good, and I want it installed correctly, like what you have.
Yep.
What do you have?
So I guess, like I said, we'll start front and go to back. I'm running a 50-inch Garmin force trolling motor.
Okay.
Powered by lithium batteries, but 12-volt lithium batteries, so 12-volt in-series 36. On the shaft of that trolling motor, I'm running 2 Boat Logics forward-facing sonar mounts, just the standard forward mount for my forward transducer, and then I'm running a switchblade mount for my perspective mode. That way, if I ever have an issue with my forward transducer, I can still use that switchblade and take it from perspective and put it in forward. Just redundancy there. DD26 cable clips going up the shaft. And then I'm running, which you touched on a second ago, 2 Sea-Lite C-Max 16s up front. A lot of people are familiar with the MBT unit, essentially the same thing. Those are controlled through a USB cable and an HDMI out from the units at the console to an HDMI in on those Sea-Lite units. I'm powering the Sea-Lites and the LiveScope boxes both through the Powerhouse Lithium forward-facing sonar converter, which steps my 36 volts down to 28 volts. The Sea-Lite screens you can run on 12, 24, 36, so that's why I'm able to run them on 28 volts. And the GLS 10 box for LiveScope, you can run up to 32 volts, again, while I'm running it on 28 volts, just to get that better image. At the console, I'm running a GPS map 8612 on the left-hand side, just the 8612, no other designation there, so it's just a standalone, doesn't have a transducer port, nothing like that. And then on the right, I'm running an 8616 XSV to power my GT36 and GT8 HW pairing in the back of my boat. And then moving towards the back, I run a Powerhouse Lithium 80 amp hour 16 volt, which powers my two screens at the console, that 8612 and the 8616. And like I said before, I've got a GT36 and a GT8 in-hole transducer, which does the 2D sonar, and the GT36 does my down imaging and side imaging.
Nice. That's a lot.
Yeah, it is.
It's
I enjoy the nitty gritty of it. I like
Yeah.
playing with stuff. So, I mean, I kind of geek out when it comes to spec on stuff like that. And I like it.
So one thing that you said is, what was the converter or inverter? What was it?
Yeah, so Powerhouse Lithium makes what's called a forward-facing sonar converter. You can run it on either 24 or 36 volt. You can also run it on their 16 volt lithium battery, but you're going to have not as good a performance because it's going to draw a lot harder on that 16 volt to convert it to 28 volts. But anyway, it hooks mostly to your trolling motor system, and what it does is it will either step the 24 volts up to 28 volts, or it will step your 36 volts down to 28 volts, and it just regulates that nice even voltage. And you can run any GPS map unit from Garmin, only the GPS map series.
Not Echo Map.
Not Echo Map.
Okay.
GPS map is just like the GLS 10 box that can run on 32 volts. And obviously I'm running my GLS 10s on that 28 volts just to get a little bit crisper image. I can see out a little bit farther. It helps my target separation and stuff like that.
That's where I was going with it. So you hear people talk about that
Yep.
going from, like, you can just run it on a 12 volt battery and it gets the same image.
You can run it on a 12 volt battery all day.
So what I hear a little bit of sarcasm there. I think I do.
Well, yes, but it's more me teasing because you hear, like you said, you hear a lot of people on forums and they say, oh, voltage doesn't matter. As long as you got 12 volts, that's all you need. And yes, you can get by with running 12 volts.
So what's the difference between running 12 to, like, I have that the Amped Outdoors, the 16.8 or whatever, and that's what I run. That's the Echo Map 126 SV, the Garmin screen.
Yep.
So a 12-inch screen with my GLS 10. I run those on that 16.8.
Yep.
Isn't that what it is? 16.8 or 14.8?
So it's labeled on nominal voltage, which is basically zero in that battery, which is going to be labeled at 14.8 volts. But in reality, it's a 16 volt battery. At full charge, it'll register on a Garmin around 16.8 volts.
Okay.
And then it'll step down throughout the day as you get, power loss.
But if it died, it would die at 14.8.
Yeah, 14.8 would be flat dead. If you registered any voltage, it would be 14.8, which is going to be your nominal voltage.
So what are you noticing between going from hooking it up to your cranking battery? Like somebody that they go, I assume you get this a lot. Someone goes, they just wire it up themselves.
Yep. And
they just get either too thin of cable or whatever, wiring, whatever it is, and hook it up to the cranking battery or trolling motor battery, something like that. What are you going to notice between going from that, just doing it yourself, DIY, on these expensive units, getting, I would assume, a pretty muddy image relative to what you could earlier, but I'm going to get you to tell me, going from the cranking batteries 12 volts to the 16.8, like what I'm running,
Yep.
even all the way up to the 28, like what you have.
Yeah. So for simplicity reasons, and to not go down that wormhole of all the different wires and switching and stuff that anybody can use, but first off, buying high quality parts is critical. Don't go to Amazon and buy your switches from Yingling Switch Co. because they're not going to be, as conductive as your Blue Sea system switches that you get from a marine shop. Buy marine grade product. If it's going in a boat, buy marine grade product. I should have brought the roll of house wire that I pulled out of a boat today. Legitimate Romex house wire. That is not, it will give you...
It will power.
Yeah, it will power on your units. Yes, it will power on your units, but it is not made to go in a boat. Corrosion over time, water, moisture, hot, cold. It's just not made to do that.
Yeah.
If it all worked the same, they would all just make the same wire for everything.
Right.
But they don't.
Right.
So critical rule number one, first thing right off the get, is buy high quality parts.
Okay.
Now, there are some people who are more mechanically inclined than others and can do a good job on installing stuff, and they're probably going to get a pretty good image. And that's all fine and dandy. But the guys that, are getting on the forums, and I'm not knocking anybody for asking any questions because questions are always good. But if you're getting on a forum, at least in my mind, if you're getting on a forum and asking, where do I hook this wire up to?
That's the wrong place to ask.
I would probably not recommend you do your own install. Not that you can't get the end result that you want, because you're probably just looking for it to power on and do what you need it to do, but you're not going to get the optimal performance out of that unit more than likely. And then as far as voltage goes, getting to your question, 12 volts, yes, you will have performance out of the unit as long as you are getting true 12 volts. Now, just because you have a 12-volt battery that's running at 11.2 volts because you used the tiniest little hairstring wire you could get from front to back because it was cheap at AutoZone, that's no.
Ain't gonna cut it.
No.
It'll still power on.
Yeah.
But what are you going to be looking at on your screen?
Probably not a whole lot of anything. You're probably going to be looking at a very dull, like you said, muddy screen with a lot of clutter, probably some interference issues. Every time you hit the trolling motor, you're getting a lot of fuzziness and crazy stuff. You may be starting to get error codes of Panoptics disconnected, because even though your unit will still run much below 10 volts, LiveScope will cut off at 10.5 volts. So I get that call a lot. My screen's still on, but my LiveScope isn't working. Well, obviously I've got power because my screen's still on. Well, yeah, you have power, but the voltage threshold on that GLS 10 box is set higher than what the screen is. So then you're talking about all that, and then carrying capacity of the wire. But so there's a huge step between 12 volt lead acid and 12 volt lithium. And just because it's all 12 volts, it's not truly 12 volts. So your 12 volt lead acid, if you pull it off the charger and let it, rest down, you're probably going to be somewhere around 12.2 to 12.5, 12.6 volts. And that's good because that's full charge on the battery. But probably about a half day of runtime on that 12 volt lead acid, you're probably going to be somewhere below 11.9, somewhere 11.9 to 11.5. And that's just the life cycle of that battery going through its voltage loss. And the curve of that battery is different than where you go with a lithium, which is why everybody likes lithium, because it's a flat curve. So on that 12 volt lithium battery at full charge, when you cut your graphs on, it's probably going to say anywhere between 13.3 and 13.5, even though it's a 12 volt battery. And then throughout the day, as you use that battery, it's probably going to stay somewhere between 13.3 and 12.9 volts 95% of the time. So you're already seeing, even halfway through the day, you're still probably going to be at 13.1, 13.2 on lithium, where you're already down around 11 volts on this 12 volt battery over here.
And you're teeter-tottering that line of your GLS, your black box cutting off, like your LiveScope cutting off.
And it's not just voltage, because the unit, there's always energy and different things, and I'm no scientist, so I'm not going to talk like I know all the exact terms. But basically, when you're operating at higher voltage, it's more efficient power. So there's not as much heat, and the unit is able to run cooler, which runs better and it's more effective and stuff like. But and you're running at lower amperage, which is where your heat comes from. So if you're pulling less amps, you're using or you're expending or expelling less heat or creating less heat. Now, when you start trying to pull at 11.5 as opposed to 13 even, you're pulling a higher amperage, even on the same unit. But because it's lower voltage, you have to pull more amperage to get that same power, which is more heat, which is less efficient, and it's bad all the way around. Then you start looking at fire hazards. If you're getting to the point where you're running too small of wire, you start looking at fire hazards. You start melting the casing on it, and that's where you got a lot of these. Places.
What's up? No, I heard that. Watch out. We're going to take a quick break. Parish Restaurant just stepped in. We share a building. Pause.
We're live.
We are back, boys. They had a little AC malfunction at Parish Restaurant, which, like I think I said before we cut just in, that Corey owns. And so but thankfully, they left something for us. So
thank goodness they left a little AC unit over there. In the corner.
we don't have a whole lot longer. We'll be wrapping stuff up. We got families to get to, but so we'll use it next time. Going back in, you remember what you were talking about?
Yeah, just talking about amperage and heat and stuff like that.
Yeah. So going from 12 to 16, you've explained that.
No, going 12, basically 12 volt lead acid versus 12 volt lithium.
Okay.
But then, so same principles apply when you're going up in voltage from even 12 volt as a category to 16 volt, which is obviously just going to be lithium.
Yeah.
More efficient power, a lot easier on the units. They're not having to work as hard. You know, people will tell you that there's no difference. And by the book, really there's not supposed to be. But the guys who are running it and actually spending time on the water and look at their stuff a lot, like myself, you can tell a difference. And that's what matters. I mean, it doesn't matter by the book because you got some electronics expert who works in a office somewhere that says, nope, it doesn't make a difference. Okay, well, that's fine that you say that, but you're not in the boat and you don't see that there's actually a performance difference. And that's what matters. I mean, if the units were only supposed to run at 12 volts, all the voltage thresholds would be 12 volts to whatever the alternator would put out to charge on a motor, which is somewhere maximum is like 15 to 15 and a half volts. That would be the voltage threshold on everything. Cool.
But it's not.
But it's not. For different reasons and different things and battery applications and stuff like that. But you start experimenting with stuff and you go, oh, okay, well, that battery and that setup does this and makes this image look crazy.
So ultimately, is that what you're looking for? Because you're talking about the amperage and you're talking about more heat, less heat, all these different things.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, are you looking for a cleaner image?
Yes. And I cannot tell you how many times I have rewired my personal boat. Different batteries, different wire, different connectors, different switches, different fuse panels. I mean, it's constant trial and error. And it won't be the last time. Just because I'm really happy with where I'm at now does not mean that I'm done. Constantly playing with new stuff. New stuff's coming out, different shielding. And that's how you stay ahead of the curve in the game, is constantly playing with stuff and not just rigging your boat and saying, all right, yep, I'm happy with the image. And you may be, but don't be scared to keep doing your research, and because there's constantly going to be new battery technology. Don't quote me on what it's called, but there's a sodium oxate or sodium oxygen battery technology that's coming down the pipe somewhere. Yeah, if you look it up, it's extremely, extremely light. So way lighter than lithium, way more efficient. It's crazy. It's not here yet. Probably won't be here anytime soon at all. But just for example of new technology. Sounds
like you're asked ChatGPT. I just put sodium ox battery, and you can't crack on me on ChatGPT now.
Oh,
look,
we'll tell that in a second. What does it say about the battery?
It sounds like you're asking, Nolan, about sodium oxygen NaO2 batteries,
yes,
also known as sodium air batteries. Yep. These are experimental rechargeable batteries that use sodium metal as an anode and oxygen from the air as a cathode reactant.
Yep.
Quick overview, metal air battery like lithium air. Let's try to find something good. Why it's interesting. Cheaper materials. Sodium is far more cheaper and abundant and less expensive than lithium. High theoretical energy density.
Yep.
Similar to or higher than lithium ion, making them attractive for EVs and grid storage or your fishing boat.
So
look at ChatGPT.
To dumb it down, it's a more powerful battery, which you're still going to have 12 volts, so the power is irrelevant or whatever, but it has the potential to be more powerful. It's going to be smaller, so think of your Group 31 big lead acid battery. These batteries are going to be itty bitty, tiny, and then with the same output capacity, and even lighter than lithium.
Which is crazy to think about.
Yes. And they'll always be, as soon as these batteries come out and, we get all the kinks worked out of them, I say we as an industry and stuff like that, get the kinks worked out of them and stuff like that, and it's around for a while. Somebody else is going to come out with something even crazier.
I wonder how long it took them to bring lithium to market. Lithium's been around for a while.
Yeah, and that's even before I got into the rigging game. I mean, I'm young, so it was before even I was probably in high school. They were probably playing with it. I would say confidently probably the last 8 to 10 years has probably been, depending on battery brand and stuff, reliable lithium technology. But before then, you're looking at some pretty volatile products that didn't like water, didn't like heat, didn't like cold, didn't like this, that, the other. So,
what was the casting out before lithium, like AGM and stuff like that?
AGM,
yeah,
and then gel batteries. Gel batteries were big too.
Well, I was really only interested in when I bring my boat, because you've already looked at my setup.
Yep.
It's not perfect by no means. You went and you fixed the stuff that I didn't do right. You fixed that, but I'm happy with my image.
Yep.
I was, again, putting those fish out today at Darbone and going and running back and forth from perspective to forward, and seeing the detail, to me, is phenomenal and it's great.
Yep.
So I'm happy with where I'm at. But after listening to you, I'm like, I don't settle with anything else. Not saying that I got to have the best of the best, where I put all my efforts in just trying to one up just a little bit. But I definitely want to, when we bring that over and we go and get them mounted up, also use your Dremel to cut my floor out to put my foot tray in. You know you're going into manufacturing.
He's tired of standing up there like Captain Morgan.
Oh
my
gosh, dude! It's I wore a pair of Vans a little while back fishing and did that, and I was like, I'm never doing that again. Absolutely never doing that again. But I want to go and tinker with some of that and see what I could do to fix it. 'Cause, dude, I saw Tyler Stewart. He posted a video of perspective, him and some of the maybe the Monster Energy guys or something like that.
Him and Cooper Gallant. Yep.
Did you see that video of the perspective?
Yep.
Dude.
Yep.
That was insane.
It's a perfect example of our rigging.
Mine did not look like that in perspective today.
Yep.
I saw some brim on brim beds.
Yep.
They were white returns sitting, or hot white on an amber color palette. They were just a hot white return sitting on a flat looking circle. I could tell it was a bed, tell it was a fish. On his, if I remember correctly, I may have dreamed this, you could see the specks on that bass.
Yep. Yeah, I think the video that you're talking about was, so they were filming a bed, and the bed actually had 3 different fish in it. It had 1 male and 2 females, and they were swimming around all over crazy on top of each other.
Yeah, just like within the last several days or a week or something like that. Yeah, that's I don't have that kind of image. I want that kind of image.
It's achievable.
Can you get that with a 16-volt lithium?
Yeah, so that's what Tyler's running. So Tyler's running essentially the same setup that I am as far as battery goes. He's just running a larger battery because he's running more screens. He's running a 100 amp hour, 16-volt powerhouse.
You set his stuff up.
Yeah, we rigged his whole boat.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to play dumb. I forgot about that. That's how you know it runs so good. So that's what your setup looks like.
Yep. And he's running the same transducer setup up front. He's running a power pole trolling motor, but he's running that same dual transducer, 1 in forward, 1 in perspective. So he doesn't have to switch back and forth.
You sorry sap sucker.
Now, Tyler is only running his live scopes on 16 volts instead of the 28 volt converter.
Why?
Nothing against Tyler, but to simplify things. When you're on the road and you're fishing, it's one less thing that he has to worry about, or if something goes wrong or whatever, he doesn't have to go dig around for the converter that's mounted somewhere else or whatever. I mean, he's got what he's got, and it's all in one place, and it's good to go.
Clearly it works. You go and you pull that video up, dude. That's insane.
Yep. And that's another thing. You're not going to see as much performance going from 16 to 28 volts, just because 16 is really good power anyway. But if you were taking somebody who's going from a 12 volt lead acid battery and then they put that converter in, that's where you're going to see the main difference.
Yeah. On that Humminbird, the only thing I plan on, unless you tell me differently, the only thing I plan on running on my actual live scope setup, I only have one transducer.
Yep.
The 34, the GLS 10 black box, and that 126 SV. I have that running to that one. It's a 48 amp hour or amp hour lithium 16.8 or 14.8 volt battery.
Yep.
Just don't put anything else on that. Just leave it. But that Humminbird, that Helix 12 to put up front, and then the one at my console, what do we need to run that on? What do we need to run that to?
Depends on what you want to do. The most simple setup would be to pull that 12 volt house battery out, put a really, really good 31 AGM in there, which is going to give you good consistent power. So like a Pro Guide lithium, even though I've talked a lot about powerhouse batteries, I've got a Pro Guide hat on. We're a dealer for both of them.
Sharp hat.
They're both phenomenal companies to work for. I don't favor one over the other. They're just, some customers got this preference, some customers got that preference.
Yeah.
We try to carry as much product as we can because we know people some can be very specific about what they want in their boat. So we try to service everybody. But Powerhouse doesn't make an AGM or a lead acid product, which is where Pro Guide comes in our book. Along with their lithium line, we do carry their 31 AGM-X, I believe. No, MX1150 is what it is. So what that is it's a 31 AGM battery, but it has 1,150 marine cranking amps. Meets all Mercury, Yamaha, Suzuki spec, all that good stuff. Got plenty of reserve capacity, but it's that AGM battery, so it's got a deeper cycle life. It's got more runtime, so it'll give you that good consistent voltage throughout the day, somewhere in that higher 12-volt range than where your lead acid's going to be.
So that'd be okay running because
At the simplest part, yes. Now, if you really wanted to get into it, doing it the best way possible would be to put a 16-volt battery in there and replacing that 48 amp hour and do one big 16 volt, like what I've got, like an 80 amp hour, and running everything off of that one battery.
that may be more than what I want. That may be more than what a lot of people want to go
100%.
And do, just not just for effort because you're going to do it, but just for money. I'm not out there doing it as much. And so like if I can get pretty close to the same results, I don't have to tinker. Like the way I tinker with my arrows, most people don't do. The way you tinker with your boat, most people don't do. They don't need to do that little bitty small difference. But it is about time for me to get a new cranking battery. So I have the same one in there. I replaced my trolling motor batteries. I don't remember when it was, but I replaced those with the Pro Guide batteries. But my cranking battery, I did not. So I need to. About time for me to do that.
Whatever you go with, as a general rule of thumb, try to go as high quality as you can for whatever you choose to go with. So if you're gonna go with a lead acid, don't buy the EverStart from Walmart. Go buy an Interstate, or a Pro Guide lead acid. And if you're gonna go AGM, don't buy the Walmart EverStart AGM battery. Go buy the Pro Guide AGM. That meets all the spec for everything. It's got to have plenty of capacity on it. Definitely don't need to buy a 16 volt, but if you take one thing away from it, the 16 volt is where it's at.
What about the lithiums? I've seen more people post about going on Amazon and buying like the 100 amp hour, the super cheap.
So like the lead time is the big one right now. They were at the Bassmaster Classic. They had a booth, which I thought was very, very cool because most of the time you hear a lot about the Amazon stuff and it's third party or whatever. But to actually see that they had a booth and they were there in person, you could walk up and ask them questions and stuff like that was pretty impressive to me, because it kind of was like them kind of stepping out there and saying, all this stuff that everybody's been saying about how we're a third party Chinese, like we're out here with all these other, we're out here with Pro Guy, we're out here with Powerhouse, we're out here with Miller Tech. We have a booth at the Bassmaster Classic and people are there and we're talking to people.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So are those, besides them, you want to get a reputable lithium? Just because it's a lithium, that doesn't mean it's a good lithium.
Yeah, a lithium is not a lithium is not a lithium is not a lithium. There's different brands out there. I do believe that as a standalone lithium company, don't quote me on this, but I think Miller Tech has been around the longest. Heard great things about them. Supposed to be an incredible company to work with. I wouldn't shy away from that brand at all. But yeah, do your research into your investment. Don't just go buy the whatever.
Yeah, it is extremely crucial for like live scope to have the right battery. The right wiring and all that for mapping and stuff like that. With the occasional side scan, that's where you're not going to be able to tell the difference in mapping.
No.
Like mapping, topo lines are topo lines, waypoints are waypoints.
Maybe speed of changing screens depending on voltage, but that's about it as far as you get there.
And you're probably getting a lot like that heat that is pulling, working on the under voltage or amperage, whatever. But side scan, does it make a pretty big difference?
Yeah, side scan and down scan for sure. Just because you're getting that, just like on live scope, you're getting that really, really crisp image, that really good target separation, especially on down imaging. We've talked a lot about side imaging, but down imaging, making sure that you've got good clean voltage and good wire, just making that cover pop where you're able to see those fish really tight to the bottom. You're getting those good returns. That's critical to me too.
Yeah. So what's next for you?
When is this going to air?
Well, I know where you're about to get at. When do you want it to air? So I was planning on this.
No, we can air it whenever
next week.
Yeah, that's fine. So next for me in general that I'm most excited about is my wife and I are due for our first child December 8th. That is a huge, but I can't. I'm so excited. Like, this is amazing. So that's next. I was kind of tentatively planning on maybe fishing some travel stuff next year, but we're going to play that by ear with everything that's coming. So probably that'd put us 2026. So probably 2027, I'll start fishing some travel stuff for sure.
So is in like MLF or like Bass Opens?
Yeah,
or
some Toyota, some BFLs, maybe. Opens are the goal, but depending on business and family and stuff like that, I mean, that's priority number one for sure. So, but definitely Toyotas, BFLs, that weekend stuff that you can just kind of run over and fish or whatever for sure in 2027. So, going to hopefully finish the rest of the year out strong, especially in media singles. Nick has been putting a smackdown on them, including myself. After this weekend, I've kind of shot myself out of the points. So congratulations to Nick. He's been on a tear, even though, you say how good I've been fishing, but really Nick has been
smashing them,
dominating. Second place after second place, which I know he despises like we all do when you get second place, but that dude is killing it.
Nick who?
Nick Ladart.
Nick Ladart.
Yeah. Or Ladart, Ladart.
Okay, Nick Ladart.
Nick Ladart fishing on social media. I'll give him a huge shout out. He's not very active on that kind of stuff, but definitely check him out. A lot of you guys know him because you fish against him on the water, and he's constantly taking your money, including mine. He's another one of our guys that we've rigged his boat out for. So I guess if you want to call him pro staff, you can kind of call him pro staff. But just an incredible guy, an incredible fisherman. So yeah, I got to give my hats off to him for sure.
How cool is that, seeing some of the top people? And again, back to, you're not going to brag on this, but like, how really though, like as a business owner, like you started off, I mean, there's several things. We're not going to go into it all, but like you started off working at another shop.
Yep.
Maybe in multiple shops. I don't know, but like
a couple different places.
Yeah, a couple of different places doing different things to now. I'm not saying this because you're on here, but I don't even think it's just this area, but even like expanding outside this area a pretty good ways.
Yep.
You are the place to come to. Like when people want their stuff done right, 100%. Like you've built something legit that you should, and I know you are, but anybody should be extremely proud of. How wild is that, knowing that some of the biggest names in fishing, not just from our area, I'm not talking about like Milliken. I ain't talking about that kind of stuff, but I mean like some of the biggest people, or at least around here,
Tyler Stewart's.
Yeah, who's a huge name in that. And even like I came the other day and you had two, was it Havoc rat boats or something?
Yeah, so we just got done working on Tim Scott, the owner of Havoc, and we also did Daryl Moore's Phoenix project. I think B. Scott is going to be in eventually too. Apparently he's got a bunch of stuff going on with his bullet that we need to address.
Who's that?
I just know him as B. Scott. I'd hate to quote him.
B. Scott, okay.
Yeah. So that's Tim Scott's son.
Okay, gotcha.
And he has, like I said, he's got a bullet, the same Havoc wrap that all them guys are running.
Where are they from?
They're out of, I think, Camden, Arkansas. I think that's where the factory's out of, if I'm right. So they're the guys that run Havoc boats. Daryl Moore runs Hunt 24/7. You've probably seen all of his social media stuff too. But anyway, getting back to your question, it makes me kind of speechless sometimes. I mean, like my wife and I will be driving down the road going to dinner one night, and you see somebody drive by with a truck and a boat and be like, "Hey, I just got done rigging that guy's boat last week," and it's incredible. And especially to think, it seems like it's been forever, because you were in there. Was it March or April last year when we did the first podcast?
Yeah, somewhere March-ish.
And we were talking about how we were just like 3 or 4 months in and stuff like that. Now we've come full circle and we're a year and a half almost. It's flown by, but it's also been a grind. And again, I got to give all the praise goes to God. Like you set yourself up for success, yes, but I would never have imagined it to be as big as it is now. It's a huge blessing. It's a huge blessing to myself, my entire family. I try to be the same to customers. I'm blessed to be a blessing. I try my best to interact with people that same way. Yeah, it's a huge blessing. Huge.
Yeah, well, that is one thing that people do say though. Like they know they're going to get their stuff done right, but people that come in, they're not just another number. Like we were talking about the other day, the same thing with Spotted Dog. Like down at the archery department, guys will just show up and just sit down and just talk, and it's like, I got stuff to do.
Yeah.
I really need to be focused on this. Really need to
100%.
take this time. But the same thing with you in your shop. You'll have people just randomly just show up wanting to just come and talk. They don't have a boat there. They did, or they're going to, but they don't now. But they just show up just to shop, talk shop, and just hang out. And as much of a time taker as something like that might be, it's pretty awesome that people like you and want to spend their time.
It is. It's a good problem to have. I think that's what people say. It's a good problem to have. It's like, I love talking to people during the workday to a certain extent, because a lot of times you're pressed to get stuff out and you feel bad because this customer needs his boat here, but you also don't want to be rude to this guy who's standing here trying to ask you questions and stuff like that. So I do wear a lot of hats, but I try my best. Like, a perfect example, a lot of times, if you have been a customer of ours, a lot of times if you call me, I answer the phone with hello, so-and-so, or what's going on? Like, what's going on, Nolan? Not this is Tournament Technologies.
Yeah.
And you're like, dude, this is Nolan. Well, I don't have your number saved. Like,
I didn't have your number saved the other day.
Yeah. Nolan's been bothering my personal or my work phone instead of my personal phones. But no, I try to be as personable as possible and make it a good experience. Because let's face it, none of us want to go spend $1,000, $5,000, $10,000. Like, we don't want to spend that money to get our boat rigged. And a lot of times it can be kind of difficult. You know, you don't know who to deal with. People don't call you back. People aren't very friendly. So I try to make it as easy and nice as possible. I'm not perfect. We all have our days, so I'm sure there'll come a time where somebody will have a story or whatever, but I try my best. So
yeah, well, you're killing it. Doing a really, really good job.
I appreciate that.
And I'm sure you got big, even bigger things coming. Like, just because you have a shop full of boats now, that don't mean you're slowing down anytime soon.
Yep. Hopefully, now next thing for business is maybe start to looking for a new location. It's so busy most of the time that I can't get boats put inside. Like, I had to call Nolan and we had to push this back a little bit because I wasn't sure that I was going to be able to get all the boats that I had inside. Luckily, a customer did end up showing up to pick up a boat. Otherwise, I was going to be basically cramming them in there like sardines yet again, which is a good thing. Again, a good problem to have, but it's coming time. So hopefully we can.
How many boats can you hold in there?
So I do keep my personal boat there full time. So if you guys want to come check out the setup, got any questions about that, you can come put your hands on everything. We can walk through it, and you can actually legitimately look at how the stuff works and not just hear about it.
And I love that.
So like I said, my boat's in there. You can get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 21 footers in there, or 21 foot boats. Now, inevitably, we do end up having some smaller stuff in there. So usually 7, maybe 8. And the 8's like, okay, I've got to really walk around and get this boat out of here so I can get some space to move.
Yeah, but you don't just have 20 or 21 foot boats. Like, you have boats like, I feel like my 100%. Boat's like a middle of the road. It's 18 foot aluminum boat. But you had in there the other day when I came, like, we shot that one little video when I came that day. There was one boat in the middle, and it was like a 14 foot John boat. I don't know what you were doing to it, but you probably wasn't putting thousands of dollars worth of electronics and all that kind of stuff. You're probably doing something pretty simple to fix a small or a bit, maybe a big problem, but you're probably doing something a little smaller project. So you don't just do the big $100,000 boats. Yeah,
just because that's what we talk about. Obviously, it probably goes without saying, but the knowledge trickles down to any wiring, knowing if you're putting a light bar on, what size wire and what fuse needs to be ran to that light bar, not just the stock 18 gauge wiring harness that comes with a 10,000 lumen light bar. I mean, just because they send something with a product doesn't mean that's what it needs.
That's really what you need. Yeah. Well, there was a pontoon boat. Actually, one of the days I brought my boat to you last year. Remember that guy came in he had a pontoon boat. And he had he left it there, and he's like, I just want this trolling motor installed on the front. That way I can just go and fish. And so you'll do it all, not just live scope, not just all the live scope, side imaging, screens.
We're going to start seeing a bunch of pontoons here shortly, I'm sure, for LED lights and radios. It's getting to be that time of year. So
you really do it all.
Yeah,
I didn't even think about radios and LED lights and all that stuff.
Jack plates. We'll do trailer work, trailer lighting. like we touched on before, I have worked at a couple other shops, so I did used to do some mechanicing, so we will do trailer work, all that kind of stuff. Just no motor work.
No.
No motor work.
How's your motor on your boat? Is it good?
Yeah, last time we talked, I was about ready to cut the bolts off the back of that thing and sink it in the Watchtower River. But she's been good so far. She's running good. That's terrible.
I forgot. I probably shouldn't have brought that up. My bad.
No, it's good. It's been a year. We're all right.
Yeah, you're good. Well, she's firing on all cylinders now, or at least half of them.
As far as I know, it's gotten me there and back for the majority of this year. So,
well, when's the next tournament?
So we've got an off weekend this week. I'm gonna go out and look around on Darbone because that's where our next one is, and that comes up May 10th. It's our last single. So if I don't pull something out of my hat, Nick's gonna walk away with AOI this year. We'll see. Darbone's been my nemesis, but
is it on Darbone?
Yeah. Yep. So maybe in due time I'll figure something out. But if not, like I said, Nick is a tremendous fisherman, so I can't take anything away from him on that. So we got that the 10th, and then that puts us the 18th, 19th. The following weekend is Louisiana Team Trail again on Darbone. So excited. And then my wife and I leave out of town to go to Hawaii, so I'll miss the following media teams, which is the weekend of the 30th, 31st, somewhere in there.
Hawaii.
It'll be interesting for sure.
That'll be fun. Be something different. They say eat the fruit, and it's really good.
Well, yeah, the flight is the multiple flights that we have to take from this state to make it halfway around the world, pretty much. No, quarter of the way around the world.
Well, last thing I'll say is the or on the fishing thing, and we'll wrap this puppy up. Darbone. I know you have that look at you talking about that, but dude, there's been some bags being pulled out of Darbone.
100%.
Just like I'm talking about a crazy jump just within the last year on crappie and bass.
Well, surely you saw the one that was caught in the high school tournament this weekend, right? 10, I think it weighed on their scales 10 pounds, 8 ounces, I think,
so
which was caught by another one of my good buddies who's very, very talented. Just committed to LSUS, by the way. Huge props. Shout out to Hayden Davis.
Okay.
Smashed him this weekend, won by 1/100th of a pound.
Wow.
But yeah, it was a very cool experience. It shook me up a little bit, which is never good when you're tournament fishing, but it was cool. We were both kind of fishing the same area, and I could kind of see him through the trees, but I couldn't really see him that good. And I heard somebody make a move, so I kind of looked over there, and their boat captain was jumping up and down on the back deck, and they boated the fish, and it ended up being that 10-pounder. So they were hooping and hollering or whatever. So it was cool. I was there, but not there, so it was kind of cool to see him be there when he caught that one. But yeah, Darbone's been showing out, even though it hasn't shown out for me yet, but it's been showing out.
It's coming. Well, those 300,000 fish that I put out, or that we put out today with LDWF, maybe they'll grow, and I'll drop you a pin where we drop them.
Don't worry. They will be the size that I usually catch out there at Darbone.
1.5, 2 inches.
Yep, that's exactly right.
No, there really has been, dude. There's been some big fish, like those Tuesday nighters.
Oh, 100%.
We still got to fish one.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. You're bad luck. I probably don't want to fish one with you, but.
And the Majestic is?
June 6th. 7th. June 7th.
Maybe we'll fish the Majestic. Maybe you can talk me into fishing that. We'll go see Daniel over there. He puts on a fantastic tournament, so I'm sure I'll probably end up fishing it because I'll be so frustrated with my lousy finishes at Darbone that I'll want more punishment.
Call Nick, joining my brother-in-law. I'm Zach Poole. He's a sleeper when it comes to fishing. Have you listened to the podcast on here? We had with the knife maker.
No, I'll have to cut it on with the at the shop tomorrow.
We just did that one, and it just dropped. It's pretty legit. But anyhow, he's supposed to be pretty salty on Darbone. So anyhow, but he asked me if I wanted to fish that with him. So
very good.
Awkward breakup. I'm gonna break up with you and go fish with him on that one.
That means I don't have to go fish Darbone unless Nick gets wind of this podcast, and then he's like, "Hey,
Nick's gonna listen to it," and I'm telling you, he'd probably pay your entry fees to go out there.
Look,
Nick,
I'm good, but don't guarantee that we might not be missing that mercury on the back of it when we come back.
Nick, he'll bring a cutting torch out there with you and cut it off.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, he'll absolutely do it. So, dude, thank you. Tell people how to contact you, find you on social media.
Yeah,
lay it on me.
So, again, Connor Nimrod with Tournament Technologies. You can reach me at the shop at 318-307-8438. Text or call. You can find our shop social media online, Tournament Technologies. We're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. We do have a TikTok as well. If you kind of want to see what's going on at the shop, you can kind of usually count on 1 or 2 videos a week somewhere in there about kind of what we got in there. You can follow my personal fishing stuff, Connor Nimrod on Facebook or cn.fishing on Instagram. I try to keep my social medias as up to date as possible for people who like to check that out as well. I'm more than happy to talk to anybody. So if you see me on the water, just look for the all white Triton. You can't miss it. I'm usually going here, there, everywhere, and nowhere at the same time.
With the 2 big 55-inch Samsungs on the front deck.
And not catching a single bass. But yeah, wave me down, flag me down, come say hi, introduce yourself. If I know you, it'll be good to see you again. If not, more than happy to talk to you, answer any questions. It'll be good to see y'all out there on the water for sure.
Yep. Awesome. Well, dude, thank you for coming on. We actually have some pretty awesome things in the works. We have some Spotted Dog podcast merch coming here very soon. So I've been repping this hat for a little while. We're testing several different things, several different hats, patches, all that kind of stuff. But we have some legit shirt designs and new hats and like koozies, just like fun stuff like that. So we've been having some people ask on that kind of stuff. And I haven't said this, but thank y'all for checking us out. I say all the time, I don't know why someone would want to come and listen to me. I have to pay you an ungodly amount of money to come on here and act like you're my friend. But no, all jokes aside, it's awesome. And it's the guests that make it. Like, it's guys like you that come on here that make people want to come back and listen. I'm just here as just a host to hit the stop and start button. But
you're easy to talk to, which draws the information out of people that people come here to listen to, which is also critical.
I try to, as long as I don't go squirrel brain and forget my next train of thought, which seems like it happens all the time. But no, thank you so much. Like,
Absolutely.
this is awesome. So I'm glad you come on. Thank you to all the listeners. This is absolutely incredible. So we have some awesome stuff coming. It's not going to be overpriced. It's going to be legit. And a lot of y'all have been asking for it. It's going to be fun. Got a really cool like raccoon riding a bass logo. Something just fun and wild that really matches the
Bass Bandit.
Bass Bandit.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's it. So we got some fun stuff, but make sure in the meantime to check out SpottedDogSportingGoods.com for all of your fishing, hunting, outdoor needs. We have some awesome archery stuff that we're working on right now, some brand new arrows. If you're into the archery or shooting at all, TAC season, not tax, but TAC, Total Archery Challenge. That season's here. It's going on. We just got back from Oklahoma. Some more people from the store. They just got back from Texas on a shoot. Yep. It was legit. It was awesome. So check all of that out. But again, the live scope bundles, we have baits and all that kind of stuff, but we still have a few of the live scope bundles in the 10 and 12-inch screens that, like I said, they're $250 off, or they were $250 off additionally because of the tax free. Now you got to pay the taxes on it, but they're still $1,100 off right now. That's a lot of guacamole, baby.
Save your pennies come September for another tax-free weekend.
I'm going to say, and you'll save that $250 in taxes. I'm going to say that you ain't going to save that $1,100 in the bundles. I don't think we'll have any by then.
Maybe not. Maybe if you get lucky, you better show up early.
You better show up early. Show up early. So thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. Let's get to our families. Thank you all so much. And we'll see you on the next one.
Be sure to like, comment, subscribe.
Yeah,
hit the notification bell.
On all his stuff, Connor Nimrod, cn.fishing on Instagram, and then Tournament Technologies here in West Monroe, Louisiana. I don't care where you are. You could be from the Sitka, Alaska. Bring your boat down here. He'll have you catching more crab than anybody.
Yep. That's what I'm talking about.
Awesome. Sweet. Thank you, dude.
It's good to see you, brother.
Yep. Bye, everybody. See ya.
See you on the water.